It helps when you turn on the mic when you unmute yourself. Hey guys, I'm Ray, and we are stream blacksmithing. Welcome to the stream. Hey Corwin. This has been an incredibly difficult week for me, physically speaking. I have been having a lot of trouble breathing, and unfortunately, today is the same. Wednesday, I ended up canceling stream because I couldn't breathe. I brought all of the equipment out and I was winded, and I just, I felt like I probably should do the rest for the day. I kind of almost feel like that today, and there was a part of me that wanted to cancel stream, and a part of me, the majority of me, that was like, I don't want to cancel 2 streams in a row. I always, I enjoy coming out here. So we are going to stream for as long as we possibly can today. And hello, mahalo. And, if it's a short time, it's a short time. If it's a long time, great. I'm super excited to be here, and I'm going to be as upbeat as I can manage today. So, we got an ad starting in about 2.5 minutes. I think I could talk about this. So on Friday of last week, we started working on this half of a set of tongs. And Monday, we finished off this half of this tongs. Now, when I take a look at these guys and compare the two of them, they're supposed to be exactly identical. However, this one is much shorter than this one. So if I compare the two of these, we can kind of do that by moving the pieces of steel so that the denotations for the boss is in the same position. We are missing about 1.5 inches on this rein, on the first one, the shorter one that we did. And that is a little bit much. These are already going to be kind of a short set of tongs. So I made the executive decision. We are going to remake this guy for this particular rein. So we're going to put this away, and this is probably going to become a pair of pliers at some point, or some other, like, little, maybe a scrolling tong or something like that. But we're gonna make a different mate for this guy, and we're gonna redo the mate for this guy. So on Wednesday, part of the reason why I ended up being as tired as I was is that I burned off the coating off of a second piece of the coil spring, and I straightened it out. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to take this guy and this guy, and we're going to match the two. So we're going to turn this guy into a second one of these. So we've got an ad starting in about a minute, so I think I'm going to start up the mailbox and start this guy heating, because my goal is actually to have 2 identical pieces like that by the end of today's stream. I want to do this relatively quickly, so we're going to take a few shortcuts. And we're going to get started really early. So we will also be using the press for the initial couple of heats for drawing this guy out for the rein, just to keep myself a little bit of stamina so that we can work a little bit harder later on. So we're going to heat this guy up now. Right. First ad is already underway. We're doing good. Welcome everybody. I'm super excited to be here. Like I said, I am feeling a little bit tired and my limbs are a little heavy, but I'm still glad to be here, you know? I still love talking with you guys. I still love streaming, and it's definitely worth it, worth being here. Let's see. While the ad is still going, I'm going to set up our first heat, which is going to be separating the jaws and the boss, like we did the first one. And now I'm going to set up the camera. Welcome back, guys. So the first step is kind of to denote where everything is going to sit. So that we can make both of our tong halves identical. So the first thing that we did on both of these sections, this is the wrong one, this is the correct one, but I think I'm going to use this one for this initial, was we took our blacksmith's helper and we separated the jaws from the boss using a plate on the bottom and a die on the top. So that is what we're going to do first. The rest we're going to be able to do on the face of the anvil, but this initial first like heat or two, we're going to be using the blacksmith's helper. And then, like I said, when we get around to drawing out the reins, we're probably going to use the press to give myself a little bit extra stamina. The first rein was shortened due to the crack removal, right? Or am I thinking of something else? You are correct. Initially, I had 2 pieces of this spring, this coil spring, right? And one of the pieces I knew that it was a little bit on the shorter side than the second piece because I cut it off the very, very end. And so there was like a horizontal cut. So I thought I was leaving enough space. And there was actually a crack in the end of this, or of that coil. And so I lost a 1/2 inch-ish of the initial diameter of the coil. And usually you can get about 1.5 to 2 or like 2 times to 2.5 times the length drawn out with this particular diameter. So we lost about 1.5 inches, and that's why the one is shorter than the other. How is my favorite U.S. blacksmith? It's a very small group of 1, but you are the best. Hey, Ray, what do you say? Hey, Knots, how are you? I'm doing all right. I'm a little bit still tired, and my limbs feel a little bit heavy. This week has been kind of hard for me, but I wanted to get out here and just play in the shop and hang out with you guys and talk and fellowship. So, and I also need to keep a little bit on schedule since our next project, I would like to finish that before the 4th of July. So we're out here as long as we can be out here. And yeah, it's going to be fun. Like I said earlier, my goal is to complete the second half of these tongs. We're redoing this one. We're going to turn this guy into either a set of scrolling tongs or we're going to make it into a set of pliers. And we'll do that at a later date. These are going to be the ones that are going to turn into our wolf jaw tongs. And I'm pretty happy with what we got from Monday's stream, so we're going to try and duplicate this guy. I said the first thing that we were going to do was work on with the blacksmith's helper or the guillotine tool, but I forgot that I did not or while I straightened out the curve of the coil, I did not square it off. So we're gonna need to square it off first. So I'm gonna change the camera angle. Like I said, I'm still a little bit tired, and so I have forgotten my order, I guess. I don't know. So we're gonna try this again. I'm gonna leave this in here. It's not gonna cause any issues as long as I work on this side of the face. I'm right-handed, so it shouldn't interfere with anything. So we're good. All right, let's square off this piece. If that was a hot cut, I would definitely pull that from the Hardy just for extra caution's sake. But this time, I think it's all right. And like I said, we're just really squaring off this piece of material, so it makes it a lot easier to line everything up. We're going to turn this around and work on the other side. The second day of July 1778 will be the most memorable in the history of America, John Adams. I guess I was not aware. The 4th is a little arbitrary. Okay. I guess I'm not, I have a high school level history in American politics and law. So I didn't spend a lot of time in college going over that. So I'm probably not completely apt on what day is what. I do, however, know that today is Juneteenth, which is the day that the Union General brought news that the slaves had been freed in Galveston, Texas. So we are celebrating Juneteenth today. So happy Juneteenth. It was also signed on the 2nd of August. Well, yeah. From what I did learn is that we picked kind of the 4th of July, but not everyone signed the Declaration of Independence on the same day. It kind of moved around a little bit, and certain people signed earlier and certain people signed later. So, yeah. Yes, happy Juneteenth, everyone. So, yes, exciting. It is very exciting to have a liberation day for the slaves. Unfortunately, we had to have one to begin with, How is our steel? Our steel is looking a little on the colder side, so I'm going to let it soak up a little bit more the heat, and we'll continue working. The butler just walked through, so I guess they're home early today. It is a holiday. They did have to work. So I don't know. Maybe it's because, it is the holiday. I know that they were either going to get a day off later on or work overtime. Might be like a time and a half day. I don't know. But that'll be good, right? Alrighty. Let's check this steel. Looks like we're pretty well hot enough now. Alrighty. Let's do another heat. Like I said, we're squaring off the other side. From there, we are going to denote the difference, or I guess the gap, between the boss and the jaws. You know what? I did that a little bit wrong. It didn't quite line up. That's why we do this, right? So we can make sure that all halves, or I guess all our sides, line up and are right angles. So I need to be a little bit careful here. We're gonna spend one more heat because my corners are not right angles. So we're gonna true those up with another heat. Hello, butler. What is the butler's name? The reason that we call the butler is because, in all technicality, I cannot have the butler help me because the butler is in a filmmakers union, and if I were to, we need to maintain a level of anonymity so that I don't have to pay exorbitant amounts to get the butler's help. So unfortunately, I cannot give out the butler's name on stream. But if you see us in person, and we will be at Quad State, so, you know. September 3rd, 1783, the Treaty of Paris, when the U.S. was recognized as a free sovereign country. Because he is your servant. Yeah, you know. So, yeah, the butler's real job is a video person and like a producer for our local news station, and it is a union position. So, in all technicality, you know, they can unofficially help me, but they can't officially help me. So we try to keep that anonymity there. He caters to my every need. Yes, the invisible servant. He does. All right. We're going to take that next heat real fast. He should appear like Wilson from the Home Improvement. I mean, you guys have seen the Butler wave before in some of our live streams. And if you look real hard, you might just find a video that has the Butler's face in it. But you'll have to look on the YouTube and scour my videos there. All right, for our next heat, we are going to, I flipped it, and we are going to put that separation between the jaw and the boss of our tongs. So I'm going to bring this guy over. Wait, no, I think it's this guy. We're going to bring this guy over so that we can kind of figure out exactly how much steel we want out the other end. The butler, the name for a lot of streamers' other half when they cannot or would prefer not to be named, and occasionally supplies food and drinks and is never seen. Yep. I mean, I met and saw him, but didn't catch his name. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I can't say it on stream or on the YouTube. So, you know, if the butler would like to provide their name, they are more than welcome to, but I'm not going to. I apologize. Or I did it, I forget. I mean, understandable. It's all right. The butler would say that I am the important one for you guys to remember the name of, you know? All right. Hold that out just a hair. Being in the wrestling industry, I respect the use of stage names, even when I know the actual name. Yeah, stage names are really important in a lot of different industries, especially in the film industry, because there are a lot of people who have very similar names, you know. Actors don't use their real names, you know, for credits and things like that. It makes it a little bit easier. He must have a very unique first name. Actually, not really. It's actually a very common name. I believe there are 8 people with the butler's name on IMDb. All right, let's do our next heat. Oh wait, you know what? I didn't change the angle of the camera. You guys aren't going to be able to see that very well. Let's change that angle real fast. Apologies. My brains are a little bit mushy today. I'm sorry. Like I said, it's been a really hard week. All right, we're going to heat that up and do one more heat on that separation. It's Bob Smith. I mean, it might be. It might be Bob Smith. I'm not going to confirm nor deny. Just use Rusty Shackford. That's my go-to alias. Does Rusty from Abana know that you use his first name? Evening Sandwich, welcome to the stream. Hello, welcome. So today, like I said, we are remaking this half of our tongs. After Monday's stream, we left off on having a fully formed half of our tongs. But when compared to the first piece, we are almost 2 inches shorter. And I can't really make this much skinnier without making it very difficult to keep them closed and not bend the piece. So we are going to be redoing this side, and we are going to turn this one into like a set of pliers or a scrolling tong at a later date. This is not going to get thrown away. It's not being put in the scrap pile. It's just being put in the delayed pile. That was an alias, a character used by King of the Hill. Oh, okay. It has been forever since I watched King of the Hill, so, you know. The thing that I remember the most about the show, though, is the propane and propane accessories part. Because I think all blacksmiths know about the propane and propane accessories part of King of the Hill. Let's do our next heat. That, and, you know, you got to be a bad person for, you know, so Santa gives you coal for Christmas in your stocking, right? right. Got plenty of separation there. So I am gonna kind of flatten that out just a hair, and we're gonna heat it back up again. We're gonna continue work on denoting where the little sections of the steel are gonna go, so that we know how much material we get to draw out for the reins. There is a blacksmith that sounds identical to Hank Hill in Indiana. Is there? You know, that's a little bit on the warm side. Not like burn me hot, but it's actually warm. You know, you feel it. Right. Yeah. We just got back from Indiana. It was a really fun trip. On Wednesday, I put up an interview with Paul Kennedy, who is the IBA vice president. And we talked about the kind of stuff, you know, like what's going on at the IBA that weekend, and you know what's been happening at the IBA over the past year. So it was really cool to talk to Paul. He's a really great guy. I love Paul. So next week's video on Wednesday is going to be about the location that the AACB conference was at. They were at a historic reenactor village. So it was really cool. Every single building that they, well, not every single, but like most of the buildings were actually pulled up from original plots and rebuilt on that site. So it was really neat to talk to one of the program directors from the site, and that was it was in Indiana. It was, man, I can't remember. I was just editing. Why can't I remember? It starts with an M. But yeah, it was really neat. They had all kinds of old buildings, and the blacksmith shop was original, like the bricks and stuff. They brought it from another location. They had a whole bunch of farm equipment. It was so fun spending the weekend in Indiana, or no, well, yes, also Indiana, but also Tennessee. I have been to 3 conferences in the last 2 months, and so it's been a busy 2 months, and I'm starting to get a little bit mixed up, I think. So I've got 1, 2, 3 videos left from Indiana. I have 1, 2 more videos from Tennessee, and I have 3 more videos from Indiana. So we've got a lot more conference material to go for editing, and I'm super excited to bring them to you guys. I also am going to be interspersing some of my videos for the blacksmith helper, the trowel, and this piece. Also, we are going to, sometime in July, we're going to put out the, or at least I hope, we're going to put out the brand video for the America 250 burger brand. So I'm super excited about the next few weeks, all throughout the summer, really. We've got a lot of videos to get through. Okay, I'm going to move my camera one more time. Well, not just one more time. We're going to be moving it around quite a bit today. Okay, let's do this. You know what I skipped today? I was going to do the Flint Striker, wasn't I? I've been trying to remember to do the Flint Striker, but I forgot today. Oh no. Okay, that was just a piece of scale. We're still good. For just a little bit, it looked like there was a crack that was forming right there. And the whole reason that we're making a second version of this is because we cracked the last version. So that would be devastating, absolutely devastating. So like I said, we are trying to make sure that these guys are identical. So the next heat, we are going to go like, or we're going to flip it another 90 degrees, set it down, and put another, I guess, set down right there. Once we got that set down in there, we'll be able to draw out the material. So we've got the press all nice and set up, and that's what we're going to be using to draw down this piece of stock, or I guess that piece of stock. That way I can kind of save my stamina for when we're starting to kind of really lay in on and start working on cleaning up the boss and the jaws of this piece, the other half of these tongs. Let's see. So, like I said, I ended up having to cancel Wednesday's stream. And as a result, I spent a lot of time editing, and I am almost done with next week's video already, which is really good because it's been a long time since I've actually had a head start on editing. So I'm super excited that I'll be able to start a brand new video on Monday, and I'll be a little bit ahead. I've been really behind on my videos and finishing up just before they need to go out on the YouTube. So it's really exciting to have a lead time again. Back in last winter, I had a really long lead time. I was actually uploading 2 videos a week. But it was that week's video and the week after's video. And so I had like an extra video in case something happened. So that was really cool. But eventually something did happen and I lost that lead time. So it's good to be able to get back a little bit of that. And I'm going to put that extra time kind of into figuring out all of the things that I need to do for a new news video. I'm going to start by once a month posting some news about what is happening in the blacksmithing community in the United States monthly. And eventually the goal is to get that to a weekly news program. But I need to kind of figure out and get it put on farms so that it's easy to do. And then I'll be able to do 2 videos a week. So like the news video and our weekly video for our edits and things. So we are in the middle of an ad break, and once that ad break is over, we are going to pull the steel and do our next set down. I had meant to start my news program this month, but I couldn't quite get it all or everything together. So it's going to be a little bit slower since this summer there aren't as many events going on. So hopefully that makes it a little bit easier to move up from the once a month to the every week schedule for that. I'm learning how to do some graphics too, which is kind of a little bit intimidating. But we're learning it. We're getting through things. Let's see. I don't know. So we're going to do our next heat. That sounds like a plan. Let's do that. All right. So that right there like so, and then we are going to put our set down right there. Move that. Okay, so we have all of our set downs. We have the set down that we've put right here for the jaw and the boss. We've got the angle so that the jaws are going to be able to open and close properly, and we've got the edge of the boss. So the next thing that we're going to do is flip this guy around and start drawing out the reins. Excuse me. Goodness gracious. I don't know why I'm sneezing today. So does anybody have any good weekend plans this weekend? I know that I am probably going to spend a little bit of time gardening and a little bit of time resting. I've got some vegetables that need to come up out of the garden already. I feel like it's too early for that, but I've got a couple of peppers that are definitely ready to go. I'm also looking at the possibility of taking a look at my garlic. My garlic looks like it's almost ready to come up as well. And that's really exciting because this is my very first time gardening. And I thought that I was going to have a brown thumb and I was going to kill everything. But I've got vegetables. So that's super exciting for me. Getting Famous Dave's barbecue catered for Father's Day party. Yeah, it's Father's Day this weekend, isn't it? That is horrible that I forgot that it's Father's Day. Honestly, though, I'm not amazingly good at remembering holidays. The only reason that I remembered it was Juneteenth is because Facebook. I will admit it, I'm terrible at remembering birthdays and holidays and things like that. Father's Day is meh. I don't want anything. I mean, you know, maybe breakfast in bed. Breakfast in bed's a good thing, and it's not like a big thing, but it shows that you are appreciated by your children. You know, I will definitely call my dad on Father's Day, because I have set a alarm on my phone to remind me, make sure that I remember. But yeah, it's good. So yeah, unfortunately I won't get to see my father this weekend, but I will definitely give him a call. So. But hopefully you guys have a great Father's Day if you're a father, you know. Breakfast in bed. Does that mean I stay in bed and have breakfast in peace? I mean, maybe. It kind of depends, you know. Sometimes when you breakfast in bed, it's like your kids bring you the breakfast and you eat it in the bedroom and in the bed, and they're with you, you know, watching you eat. And sometimes they just leave it there and drop it off. I don't know. Something like that. At least I imagine. Man, for whatever reason, I feel like I gotta sneeze again. Okay. All right, let's do our next heat. And like I said, we're gonna use the press today. Save me a little bit of stamina so I can do some stuff this weekend. But you know what? I forgot to plug in the press. I was just thinking to myself that, man, the press is really soft today. It hasn't even kicked in. The air compressor hadn't even kicked in. It's because I forgot to plug it in. Let me do that real fast. It's going to be a little bit loud for a second. There we go. That's what I was expecting to happen. That's what I was expecting to happen. Let's see, what else? I had a thing I was going to talk about, and I forgot what it was because I forgot to. Oh, the reason I was going to say that it's been a really long time since I've used the press. And I'll talk a little bit more about why that is after the press, or the air compressor charges up again. Press lore incoming, something like that. I don't know if it's press lore necessarily, but it's just an explanation as to why I'm using it now and not before. We'll see if it finishes its charge soon. I can imagine that you guys can hear me relatively okay, but I can't hear myself very well when the air compressor is charging. I'm trying to decide if I want to swap out my run-of-the-mill Craftsman bench vise for the antique 100-pound bench vise I got. You know what? If I was you, I'd use them both, because I'm sure that there are different jobs that each vise would be better for. The Craftsman might be better for smaller stuff, whereas the 100-pound vise might be really good for larger things. That could. I have multiple vices around my shop. I can hear you fine. I wish that I had sound filtering on the job site. I do have sound filtering. It's like, if I didn't, you guys wouldn't be able to hear me. Like, I can barely hear me with the headphones on, I got an industrial fan, I got the forge going, the air compressor charging, it's very loud in here. All right, so I owe you that press lore. So the reason why I have been choosing not to use the press lately is because I feel like it is very important to allow people to, or I guess show people, that you can make beautiful objects with just a hammer and an anvil. You don't need the fancy equipment to make fancy pieces of artwork or, useful tools and things like that. So oftentimes I will hand forge the stuff so that because sometimes it's better that way. It also allows me to practice my own hammer control, and I learn a lot every time I do hand forging, right? If I don't know how the material is going to react under a hand hammer and I start using the press, then I'm going to ruin my piece of material a lot quicker using the press, right? Same with the power hammer. If I don't know how that material is going to move under the dies and under a hammer, then I don't know how I'm just going to ruin my piece faster. Simple is traditional and easier, yeah. And I mean, it's more work, more stamina because you're using the hammer over and over. This takes that effort away, but it's still the same amount of pressure. So if I mishit or if I misjudge where I want that steel to move, then I'm still gonna screw up my steel whether I'm using the press or the hammer. We can hear you. You always seem shouting. I suspect it's because the background noise and ear defenders protect your hearing. Yes, right? So my headphones protect my hearing from the incredibly loud background noise, but I also don't really have I can't hear myself very well if I just like talk. I also kind of talk very loud in general. I'm a theater kid, through and through. I grew up on the stage, and so I am using a vocal projection technique. I'm not actually shouting. I'm just using my diaphragm to lift my voice from my diaphragm through, through my vocal cords and out with a high volume. I have 2 jeweler's vices, the Craftsman and a no-name Chinese one. And now the Behemoth. Jeweler's vices are really cool too. I when I was at the jewelry store, I was pretty much the only one that used our vice. But when you need it, right? I've never enjoyed watching someone use machines. Swinging a hammer is good entertainment. See, I agree. And really the reason that I chose today to use the press, and I'm only going to be using it for some of the time today, is because I am a little bit, I'm still dealing with some breathing issues that I've had all week. So in order to be able to stream for longer and keep my stamina up, I'm using the press to do a little bit of the work for me. The last one, I did hand forging, and I will be hand forging as we continue on because there's some things that the press just cannot do that I can do at the face of the anvil. So let's do another heat. That wasn't a dig at you using the press. Sorry if it came across like that. No, it's fine. I'm just, letting you know that there will be some more entertainment to come if you stick around. Lovely crinkle cut fry going on there. You can kind of, as I spin this, you can kind of see the ripples going. So for our next heat, we're going to focus in on the high areas. That's going to really draw that out a lot. We've broken the edges. It's going to be a lot easier for that steel to start moving. I was a tech light sound monkey in theater, so I can be very quiet. I know the opposite of projection. Throw to sound quiet even while being loud. See, I started as an actor, or an actress, I guess. And I ended up moving into the behind the scenes when I got a little bit older, because there was a little bit more competition, and I didn't have the singing voice for the musical. So unfortunately, I put that dream away for that time, and now I'm back at it. I feel like this is a little bit acting, a little bit demonstration, a little bit blacksmithing, right? We got a little bit of everything. I'm also doing the tech stuff for this, so none of it was a waste. But yeah, so we have already gained quite a bit of length from just those two heats with the press. So we definitely want to continue working the steel, making sure that it gets drawn down really long. But yeah. Also, I usually feed the material in from the end all the way back. And the reason for that is because the ends of the bar are going to lose heat first, right? Because they're at the ends and they have a lot more airflow going on to them or reaching them. So the further into the bar that you are, the more the heat is going to just stay and bake in there. So if I feed the steel from the end towards the middle, we're going to get a lot more movement at that end, and it's going to draw out evenly. Tech, magic, and performance. So you're a D&D bard. I mean, I guess in real life, in technicality, I probably am a bard. But when I play D&D, I typically play a ranger fighter hybrid. So if I can multi-class, it's ranger first, then fighter. If I can't multi-class, then I look at the campaign and I'm like, is a fighter going to be better or is a ranger going to be better? And then I pick. I don't know why necessarily. I really like fighter and I really like tracking. I know a lot of D&D rangers, like, they're like, ooh, favored enemy. That's funny. That's so lame. But if you pick the right favored enemy for your campaign, because you've session zeroed it out, it can be really powerful. So, Bowsmith. Yeah, and I mean, I use a bow in real life too. I have a recurve that's like a takedown bow, and we have we go target shooting in the spring, fall, and winter. It's really fun. I tend to use a 30-pound draw weight, so I'm not doing like deer hunting or anything, but it's fun, just target shooting. All right, let's do another heat. Ray Smithy has a recurve. Well, of course. I do have a recurve. It's technically a hand-me-down from the butler, but, I like it. I use it. It's mine now. said before, we were focusing in on the high spots, and we've gotten a lot of length out of that. We're gonna do one more heat on the press, and then we're gonna move over to the anvil face, so I can really go and straighten everything out and continue drawing that back. I've got an 80-pound recurve. I love shooting. See, I really like shooting recurves. I guess in all technicality, I have never shot a compound bow, and maybe that's fun too, but I really enjoy shooting the recurves. It makes me feel like Legolas, you know? I has an old friend who uses a 110-pound recurve that he made himself. Whew. That is cool. I've always wanted to shoot a bow that I made myself, but I'm not confident enough in my skills in woodworking to be able to successfully make a recurve like bow with the limbs without cracking it or breaking it. And it can be really dangerous if you're shooting a bow and it just cracks on you, you know? 60, I don't know if I can pull 80. Oh, 60. There's a glare in my glasses. I've got a LED light that shoots behind the camera, and like as I continue working, my like it gets warm and I get like fog. So I apologize. I didn't see it. Hey Miramac, welcome. Thank you so much for that lurk. Hello, hello. He also makes his own arrows, but he is a professional woodworker. See, that's the thing, you know? You gotta be really good at woodworking to be able to get, or to make sure that you're confident with the glue ups for those limbs, you know? I'm just not. I don't know anything about gluing up. I don't know anything about woodworking. Every time I even attempt it, I have to redo whatever I'm doing. That's why I'm like, steel. This is my domain. Metal. Back. Safety meeting. Well, safety is important, you know? Well, he had made a 130-pound bow for someone else. Oh, wow. 130 pounds is really heavy. I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I do a 30-pound. The Butler has a 45-pound, which is the absolute minimum for hunting in this area. And they don't like it if you are if you're below 60 pounds. But yeah, so I'm a little person when it comes to bows. Arm wrestling champions. Probably. I mean, you have to have a lot of arm and back strength. Those back muscles are super important for bows. Wood crossbows. See, I could probably do a crossbow if I could do it with like aluminum or like titanium or steel or something like that, you know, spring steel maybe. Get some limbs for, make them out of like leaf spring. I don't know, what do you think? Maybe we'll add that to the list someday. All right, we're gonna do that last heat over on the press. Let me check to make sure I'm still recording. I am. That's good. And then we're going to come back over to the face of the anvil to kind of finish off this draw out. go 3. All right, there we go. Back in the heat, back in the heat. Crossbows are usually sprung steel, and 130 pounds is weak. That's very true, but a crossbow is meant to be loaded by stepping on the loop at the end and pulling with 2 hands. So, you know, I'm not thinking one-handed draw. It's 2-handed, right? Have you heard of the historic crossbow with iron limbs that had 14 forge welds? It had some insane draw weight, like 800 pounds. Ugh. You got to be really confident in your forge welds. I have not gotten any. I've gotten like 2 forge welds in my blacksmithing career, you know? I think I need a little bit more practice before I'm ready to forge weld crossbow limbs. It sounds like something you give the enemy to use, right? We're going to slow you down and give you a handicap by giving you an 800-pound forge welded crossbow. If you can make it work, you know, you'll win handedly, but, you know, I'm not confident that you can make it work. All right, I am out of water, so once this ad starts, we've got about a minute left before it starts. I'm going to refill this. I am out of Gatorade today. I need to go and get more this weekend. That's another thing that we're going to be doing today, going to the Sam's Club. If we had a Costco, we'd probably go there, but Sam's Club works pretty well. Hey, if it explodes, it's 1 Bowman down, right? Hopefully that 1 Bowman isn't important for you, right? Let's re-aim this camera. We're going to be forging a little bit on the face of the anvil, like that central area. We're also going to be spending a little bit of time on the horn. So I'm probably going to move this a couple of times, but for the moment, we're going to get both at the same time. All right, ad break. I will be right back, and then I will continue we can continue talking. Thirst. Got to stay hydrated. All right, we are back. Or we're almost back. We're back now. Now we're back, yes. Mahalo says, do you go to 3D archery matches? So there used to be a 3D archery range around this area. And we went to go there one time, but by the time that we got there, like they had shut down, like they went out of business. So I've never been able to do that, unfortunately. I've always wanted to because I think it would be really fun. That, and there is also like, I think it's archery tag, where you get like the little bopper archery or like bows and arrows, and they have like little foam whatever so that you don't get hurt when you hit people with it. But that also sounds like a lot of fun, and I've never been able to do that. Make the butler go and get it. I mean, that's what butlers are for. I don't know if the butler is watching the stream, though. What's up, Homelit? Hey, Jack, welcome to the stream. Hello, hello. we are remaking the other rein for this wolf jaw tong. We finished off Monday's stream with this guy, and this is what we finished up on Friday. But if you take a look at these guys, like Friday of last week, you can notice that this one is almost 2 inches shorter than the other one. So we're going to take this one and turn it into either another set of scroll tongs or maybe like a plier or something, and we're remaking the sides so that it matches this one. Archery tag looks super fun. It does, man. It does. All right. Let's do our next heat real fast. Well, not real fast. We're gonna take our time with it. We're gonna do it right. But that's also why we are redoing this end of the tongs. There was a little bit of twisting going on in the press, so I'm trying to correct that as we go. Let's get some more heat on there. My son played indoor archery tag at youth group a few years ago. I'll bet that was fun. When I was in youth group back in the, I guess, early 2000s, we used to do some pretty fun things. One time we went to, like, go-karts. We did go-karts, but they weren't like the go-karts that you see at the mini golf place. These things, they moved. They went 30 miles an hour. And you could actually drift with them. It was so cool. I got red flagged for drifting too much though. So yeah, I missed like 2 laps because I got red flagged. I was wondering how no windows were broken. I mean, I don't know. I imagine that the little tips, the little puffy tips or whatever, are probably squishy enough that you wouldn't break the window, right? Have you guys ever seen on YouTube, there is this archer named Blumenick. I think he's from England somewhere, or I guess from Great Britain, because I don't know if he's actually in England like proper or not, but he has these arrows that have these big old puffy ends on it, and every time you see him shoot it, it feels like it's, you know, really heavy, and so it doesn't go as far, even with the high weight bows. Turns out they put boards up to protect them. Well, that makes sense too, you know? My ears are starting to bug me. After a while, sometimes my headphones, if they're not properly on my head, they start like squishing my ears. All right, let's do another heat. Put that there for now. We're establishing in the tip so we know what we're aiming for. So it's always good to establish the most extreme points of your tapers very early in the process, so you have kind of a target to aim for. This is a pretty standard tapering technique. Sometimes you don't go all the way because then the end gets a little bit cold, and so it might end up getting a little crispy at the end. So I'm starting to think that we are going to get at least this far by the end of today. We might have to do a little bit more work on Monday than I was originally hoping for. What I was hoping for was that we would have 2 fully formed halves just like so that all we would have to do on Monday would be to punch the boss hole for the rivet and then rivet them together. But I think we might end up looking a little bit more like this by the end of the stream. Not necessarily because I don't think I can finish it in an hour and a half necessarily, but because I'm starting to get a little bit on the winded side. So I'm starting to kind of prepare mentally for possibly ending the stream maybe a half an hour early. But we still have about an hour left in the stream, so we're pretty good. We're gonna make it. We're gonna finish off that taper at the very least. All right, let's change up our camera angle. Now that we've got that tip established, I want to go a little bit further in on the horn. We're gonna start really working hard on drawing out. We're gonna get a lot more work in on the horn of the anvil than the face. It helps when you use the tripod properly. There we go. That's better. Let's do our next heat. Like I said, we're going to be on the horn. Whew. Hammer control's a little lacking today. I can always tell when I'm starting to get tired because my hammer control goes out the window. But yeah, we'll get this done. There's a cowbell part from Don't Fear the Reaper. Oh, that's the cowbell part. Yes. And that's kind of the rhythm that I'm using there. How are you enjoying the tong forging? I think it's all right. I do actually like forging out tongs. Like, I know that I could just buy tongs. You know, there's Blacksmith Supply. There are any number of other blacksmith, you know, like Atlas. Lots of websites where I could buy tongs if I wanted to. But I actually enjoy making tongs, drawing out the reins, establishing the boss and the jaws, you know, punching the holes for the rivets and riveting them. I actually really enjoy it because there's so many, the breadth of blacksmithing techniques that you have to use in order to make them. You know, it's good practice. I think tongs really help stretch your mental ability to create three-dimensional objects. I do too. Like I said, there's a lot of the basic blacksmithing techniques are required to make successful tongs, you know? And I like it. I think it is a fun exercise. And you know, I'm starting to get to the point where I'm getting okay at doing it. I really like making tongs too. That's cool. And I know that there's a lot of blacksmiths out there that if they could if they could avoid making tongs completely, they would. You know, and it's not everyone's cup of tea. I just like it. Chopsticks are tongs on a hard level difficulty. Yes, because there's no hinge built in, right? You got to kind of make your own hinge with your fingers. I think the frustration is primarily no matter how many tongs I have, I never seem to have the right ones. Oh, 100%. I feel like every time I make or I start a new project, I need to make another set of tongs specifically for the project. And then I'm not good enough at making tongs to successfully make tongs for that project, right? So I have like an entire rack of tongs. And, or I guess not an entire rack because I have hammers on that rack too, but you know what I mean. I have this whole rack of tongs where it's like none of them are perfect for any good one thing. And so I struggle and I make another set of tongs. And maybe it gets a little bit better, maybe it's a little bit worse, but you know, it's the thought, right? Yup. And even if you were, the tongs take as long to make as the thing you were intending to make, right? So I don't know what the solution is aside from buying up pre-made tongs. But even then, if I bought a set of tongs because I felt like making a project and I didn't have the right set of tongs, it would take like a week to get here. So I might as well just make a set. I don't know. At least that's how my brain works. All right. Well, that was pleasant. Drop forge. I've experienced them getting better than worse than better again, as have I. And I think that's a thing that happens in a lot of stuff, right? You do 10 or 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You know, you're still getting better over time, but you know, it's only like it's a little bit slower, right? A blacksmith who cannot make tongs is a blacksmith, uh, or is not a blacksmith. A blacksmith who can make tongs is learning. I mean, every blacksmith is learning, I think, but that's probably the point there, you know? The general trend has been towards better, though. Yes. Like I said, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You're still getting that 1 step forward overall, so you are trending upward the whole time. But sometimes your tongs are better or your projects are better, and sometimes they're a little bit worse. Would you be offended if I sent you a tong making video that I quite enjoy? No. I'm always up for tips and learning and stuff, as long as you're respectful about it. And Jack, I've never found you to be a problem, so you know, go ahead. Thank you so much, the Creator Test Lab, for that follow. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the community. If you have any questions, feel free. You know, there are no dumb questions. I'm pretty good about answering. If I don't know, I'll find out. But I have a large breadth of head knowledge about blacksmithing. I intend to be a problem. I'm just taking my time. Oh, okay. Well, it's the whole, like, and I hate to say it like this, but the whole mansplaining thing, you know, and that does not just happen to women, right? Men get mansplained too as well. But it's like, I know what I should be doing. It might not be working the way I think it should, but I know in my head how I want it to work. It's not helpful sometimes when people, you know, so it's kind of, be respectful, you know, but I think that's like an everyday thing. Just be respectful, be communicative. All right, let's do another heat. And I appreciate you, Jack. You're always communicative. You always ask permission, you know, and you're respectful. All right, more heat. However, before I actually get that heat, we're going to take a look at both sides of our tongs. So if we take a look at that, you can definitely see that we're starting to grow. We've got a little bit of ways to go, see at that end, but we're working it, we're making it happen. Let's get some more heat. Thank you. I try to offer guidance while not directing others' journey, but wear or worry about being too helpful. Yeah, but the fact that you are worried that you are being too helpful is a sign that, you know, you are probably fine. It's the trying, you know? And even if it comes off a little bit weird, then you can clarify. Like, communication is key in all relationships, whether that's streamer and chat, or, you know, friend and other friend, or, you know, relationship. Like, you know, communication is always key. As long as you can continue that back and forth in a respectful manner, you're going to succeed. And that's my relationship advice for the day. Hey, Blue Red, welcome to the stream. Hello, hello. Ooh, a 15 stream streak. That is amazing. Thank you so much for that support, for your continued support. I am glad to have you guys here. All right. Gonna allow it to bake in there just a little bit further so that we can get a nice nice movement for our next heat. I also need to remember, as I continue working on this, that I'm working with spring steel. I cannot use the quench bucket, right? If I use the quench bucket, then we might get a crack like we did on the first side. Watching the U.S. versus Australia match in the World Cup. The U.S. is ahead 2-0 at the half. Interesting. I guess I suspected that the U.S. had a team, but I didn't really know. But it does make a lot of sense that the host country has a team in the World Cup, you know, since we're hosting this year. It would be a little bit weird if we didn't have a team. Does that mean, though, that we didn't have to qualify? Do we automatically get our team in, or did we have to qualify just like everybody else? I don't know much about about football, or like soccer. I feel like I know even less about American football, though. I won't lie. I'm not really a sports person. Like I said earlier in the stream, I was a theater kid. So I spent all my time in the theater, and I did not get to go to, like, the sport ball games. All right. This is going to be our last heat on this angle, and then we're going to change angles. Probably still going to be on the horn, just a different side of it, maybe. Ugh. Nose is all itchy. Whew. I feel like I was doing a little bit better on Monday, drawing out the reins of the second side, like this guy, because I feel like I'm having a lot of trouble with hammer control today. My hammer is just kind of moving all over the place. So, and it's not necessarily because I don't have the control ordinarily, but I've lost a little because I'm a little bit under the weather, or I guess not necessarily under the. I'm still having a little bit of trouble breathing. It affects my stamina. It also affects my brain a little bit. The host country automatically gets a spot in the World Cup. Canada and Mexico are co-hosts, so they also get spots in the tournament. Okay, that makes sense. See, like, that's what I thought how it works, but I wasn't sure, because I didn't think that I had heard of any other U.S. games. So, yeah. U.S. versus Australia. Cool. I hope it's a fun game, or, like, good to watch, But like I said, I don't really know much about the rules of soccer or, football. If you could choose between a press and a power hammer, which do you think you'd go with? Well, I suppose I have a press and I don't have a power hammer, so I mean, maybe that's the answer. But if I go if I go deeper into that, the reason I have a press is because I was able to build one for cheap. If I could have built a power hammer for the same amount of money that I bought the press for, or I built the press for, I probably would have chosen a power hammer. And not necessarily because I think one is better than the other either. But it is because at the time I was more familiar with power hammers than I was with presses. It took me a really long time to kind of figure out how the press worked, right? And figure out that I could make the press work similarly to how a power hammer does work. Because when I started forging, my first classes or my first lessons were at the Metals Museum in Memphis, Tennessee. They have two power hammers, like the self-contained compressed air power hammers. I think they are Sayang. No, that's wrong. I can't remember what kind they are, but they're really large ones. So I think that I would have bought a power hammer, but if I were to pick one right now, I would probably pick a power hammer anyway, mostly because I feel like presses work better for people who are doing more pattern welded steel, and since I don't do a lot of that, I think that a power hammer would be better for me personally. I wonder which two countries lost out because of the 3 countries automatically getting spots. I don't know. That would be interesting to know, you know? So we do have an incoming ad break. An incoming ad break. So I think I'm going to move the camera and we will do our next heat after that break. So Jack, did that answer your question? Yeah, I just like to be nosy. It might have been an A-Yang power hammer. I don't remember for sure what the 2 power hammers that the Memphis Metals Museum has in their shop. I actually saw the other day I think they said it was an Indonesian power hammer, but it was a tabletop power hammer. And I'll have to talk a little bit more about that after the ad. Someday I will go down the power hammer building class in Johnstown. Ooh, that would be so much fun. I have talked about doing something like that with the butler. Making a video on that class would be so much fun because then I'd get a power hammer out of it and they'd also get a video out of it. It'd be cool. Oh, wait, the ad hasn't started yet. Yes, a tabletop power hammer. I saw it on Facebook. I don't even know where it came from. I tried to look for it, and there's a TikTok on it, a YouTube on it, and that Facebook post. That's it. So I'm like, I don't know where this thing is coming from. But it was like this dude, and he had a bar of steel that he took from his shop to his garage. He used it, and then he brought it back. And everybody was talking about how he should bring the power hammer closer to the forge, and nobody was talking about where did you get this thing? AI video. I mean, maybe. Maybe. Here, while this ad break is up, let me see if I can't find it. The video. Where was it? It wasn't there. $5 kilogram. I can't seem to find it. I'll see if I can't figure it out in a little bit. It was a little green thing. And it was on a video that I was watching on the Facebook. I'll see if I can't find it. But yeah, it was interesting because it was on like this table and it moved the steel, but it didn't move it all that well. All right, let's do our next heat. I think eventually I saw that he paid $1,000 for it. All right, more heat. It was a self-contained compressed air power hammer. So it was fancier than a tire hammer, but I mean, you can get more power out of a tire hammer. So I don't know what would be better. You know what I mean? I should have saved the link so I could show it to you guys. I'll see if I can't find it. Maybe send the link to the Discord. I think I found it on my phone. But I did restart it, didn't I? I did. See if I can figure it out. I don't know. I don't know if I can find it or not. I'll see if it's in the history of my other stuff. I was, so not last weekend, but the weekend before when I went to Indiana, on the way home, the butler looked at me and asked me if I could create my own tool line, like a Ray's Smithy blacksmithing tool line. What would I include in it? And I was like, the first thing, number one thing that I said is I would try and buy the pattern out for the mailbox, right? That would be the first thing that I would want in my tool line. I would see if I could pay to get the rights to mass produce it. Ray Smithy is strong. She moved the anvil. Were you not here the other day when I picked up the anvil? I think there's a clip somewhere on the channel of me picking up the anvil. But yeah, I mentioned that the mailbox would be the first thing. I would probably do like, you know, the basic tongs and hammers and stuff like that. But the butler told me that what I should do is I should come up with a 10-pound power hammer, like a really cheap power hammer that you could buy at like your regular hardware store, like Lowe's or Home Depot or something like that. And I could give you Gene's number to discuss that. See, unfortunately, I don't have the amount of money that I would want to give him for the design. You know, I don't have the money saved up yet. But ideally, sometime in the future when Ray Smithy, you know, becomes like a major YouTube channel and I get that money, you know, I will totally ask you for that. But yeah, the butler said that I should come up with a cheap power hammer that you could buy at like Harbor Freight or like Lowe's or Home Depot or something like that. I don't know how easy it would be to do that cheap enough. But I mean, a lot of people will buy like table saws and stuff from like Home Depot or, you know, Lowe's or whatever for like a $500 price point. They work pretty well to begin with. And I think it would be interesting if you could somehow design a functional power hammer at that price point. It might be a little bit impossible to do, you know what I mean? Let's do another heat. I remember when Ray Smithy was a tiny channel before she hit it big. Yeah, exactly. My pie in the sky dream, you know? So, you know, somebody watching this channel, you know, might be willing to somehow sponsor that, you know, I'd be open for it. Okay, if you take a look at this, we're getting real close to the length that we're going to need for matching the two of these reins together. So the next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to come to the center of the anvil and kind of straighten everything out. There's some lumps and bumps and some curves that I want to address, and that's going to be the next thing that we do. The Christ-centered Ironworks power hammer is a small one, but not sure how much it costs to build. Yeah, I don't know. The last time I went to their website, I didn't see a power hammer. I only saw their what is it? It's not pneumatic. It's probably like a air assisted like trip hammer, which is different than a power hammer, because a trip hammer, you step on the thing and it only gives you one hammer blow, right? Those are great for doing stamping and for doing some like detail work where you only really need one blow. It's kind of very similar to a fly press where you wind up the screw and you let it go fall down. Treadle hammer, yeah. So I wasn't sure if they had a power hammer with their treadle hammer or trip hammer or whatever you want to call it. All right, I'm going to move the camera real fast. We're going to come over to this side. Getting pretty tired, so I'll probably do the straighten up, and I will probably also curve up the handle on this guy. And from there, I will probably end the stream. Apologies for ending it a little on the early side, but like I said, I'm, you know, starting to get some tired. Trip hammer only use gravity power. Hammer adds power to the fall. Oh, power hammer. Power. Blah. Trip hammer only uses gravity. Power hammer adds power to the fall. I mean, that may be the definition, you know, or like the what it would technically be called. The Chinese tabletop power hammer seems to go for 1,000 to 3,000. Probably hard to make it cheaper and get any profit out of it. Yeah, that's I think that's probably what I'm thinking. And like I said, I don't think that you could make it much cheaper, especially if it's self-contained. Like maybe if you were using, or if you were doing like a tire hammer, but like a tabletop version, maybe, but I don't know how sturdy it would be, you know? If you could get something that ran on like a 1 horsepower like motor, maybe, I don't know. I posted the page that has the plans for CCI. That makes sense. All right, thank you. Yeah, thanks, Corwin. It is something that I'd like to look into at some point. In the Discord. I figured that's where it was, because I didn't see the link here, so I imagine it must be in the Discord. Thank you. All right, let's do our next heat. Like I said, we are going to spend a little bit of time cleaning up the faces of the reins of this tong, or the side of the tongs, or however you want to say that. the plan is to take one more heat to kind of chase the flats on here, and then we will do another couple of heats to kind of round out the rain. We're going to take off all of these corners. It's going to be a lot easier to close the tongs without those corners. They get sharp and they kind of hurt. So we're going to do that next. I think they look pretty darn close in general. Tsunami Bit. I'm Henry VIII, I am. All right. Every time I hear that, it makes me think of the Star Trek episode where Captain Picard recites that poem. I am Henry VIII, I am. Welcome to the stream. We are working on a set of wolf jaw tongs. So this is one side, but we need two identical sides so that we can put them together so that they open and close on a hinge. We're pretty well done with this side. We're working on the other side right now. Thank you so much for that follow. Like I said, welcome to the stream, welcome to the community. I hope you're having fun, or at least as much fun as I am. Although that might not be possible because I'm actually doing the blacksmithing here, and that's a lot of fun. So I hope you're having fun in general. Did I say that we were going to do another planishing, or were we going to take off the corners yet? As opposed to wharf jaw tongs? I am already learning. Well, that's great. I'm glad. It is one of my goals is to teach as much blacksmithing as I possibly can. And because I don't know everything and I'm not like amazing at it, my other goal is to point out other artists, other blacksmiths that you can learn more from. So I'm glad that you're learning. You know, take a look at my YouTube, and there's a whole bunch of blacksmith interviews over there. I go to a lot of conferences. I get to do a lot of interviews. It's so much fun, and I love sharing all of that with you guys. Hey Yankee, welcome to the stream. Hello, hello. Oh, okay, so we're taking off the corners now. All right. I lost track of where I was. So let's take off those corners now. So we always start by doing our forging with a square because it's easier to keep track of where everything is and to make everything make sense. So when we're done forging and we want to turn things back to round, we start by squishing the corners off and turning our square into an octagon. And from there, we can turn that octagon into a round by getting rid of all of the facets. We're going to get more heat, and then we're going to start doing that. I know you're not a knife maker, but I bet you could get rid of or get a lot of good content from Blade Show in Texas or Atlanta. There are a lot of blades or blacksmiths there. I'm sure I could. So my goal, last year we went to 3 conferences, all last year. We went to the BAM conference, which is the Blacksmith Association of Missouri. And we went to IBA, which is the Indiana Blacksmith Association. And then we went to Quad States. So we did 3 conferences last year. This year, we have already gone to 3 conferences. We went back to BAM, we went back to IBA, and we took we spent some time in Tennessee and went to the Appalachian Area Chapter Blacksmith Association Conference. We have 3 more in the fall that we're going to be doing. We are going to be going to the Urbana Conference in Arkansas. We are going to be going back to Quad State, and we are going to Tennessee once again, but this time to Memphis, Tennessee, to the Metals Museum. Next year, the plan is to double again. I want to do 12 conferences next year if I can manage it. So I am looking for more trips to go to, right? The goal is to create or to go to a conference every month, right? And I know not every month has conferences, so we might end up having to shove a few together. But that's the goal, because I would love to share as much blacksmithing information with as much people or with as many people as possible. And I think that it's great doing all of the interviews and the news and, like, you know, just getting around to everybody and just talking to people. I think that's a great way to learn. So I am looking for more events to go to next year. So, you know. Now, I'm not positive that I'm going to be able to get to 12 different conferences next year, but we are trying to up our game every year. Hopefully Haverhill next year. I hope so. It is my goal to get to an Upper Midwest Blacksmith Association meeting of some type next year. If I could manage to get there this year, I'd do it as well. But I've been having a little bit of trouble with their scheduling, because right now they're scheduling, like, the only place that I've been able to find it is on their Facebook, and it's just like a Facebook, like, a Facebook message. So I don't know if they have a website or anything, or if it's just that Facebook and their, like, events or whatever. But it's a little bit harder for me to plan the things, and so I'm really trying to get there, but I got to get a little bit more info. All right, let's do our next heat. Now, the AACB conference is every 2 years, so we will, you know, if Haverhill is that same weekend, we might be able to get there. All right, let's get more heat. And for those of you who are watching, both here on Twitch and on YouTube, because I know we have a relatively large audience on YouTube as well, if there is a conference that you guys would like to see me at, let me know. Leave a comment, you know, give me a website. Any planning materials, I will do my best to get to as many conferences that you guys want me to be at as I possibly can. Limited to my own budget, you know, it costs money in gas to get to some of these places. So I do need to have, I can only do so many so often, if that makes sense. But yeah, I would love to get to more conferences. I think it was the same weekend you were at AACB. It was this year. I remember. I remember. Yeah. So there will not be an AACB next year, but the year after they will return. So, well, I might be able to make it. We'll have to see. I gotta see what my schedule's like. But like I said, unfortunately, I am limited to my own gas budget because I do drive the van, so gas and whatnot, or plane tickets. I mean, I got invited to a conference in Florida, and I can't make it because like the amount of time it would take to drive down and back up and whatnot. So yeah, like if there's a conference that you guys want to see me at, let me know. If it's in my budget, I'll get there. All right. Let's do another heat. All right. Starting to look pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that, guys. So, I think we're going to do one more heat and then I will probably end the stream for the day. There's a little bit of cleanup work that I want to do right close into the boss. And so, yeah, I think that's going to be what we're going to do for this next heat, and then we'll probably end the stream for the day. We have also actually, as I've been going to different conferences, a lot of people have been coming up to me and asking me about taking photos and or videos of their pieces and their shops. And we would be open for that as well. As long as it is financially feasible. Like if you want us to do that kind of stuff, we can work something out. We'll do our best. But yeah, so we've got one more heat left in the stream. I will be back on Monday at 2:30 Eastern. So we will continue working on this tongue. We're going to put them together, and hopefully we will have the finished tongs done on Monday so we can start working on our burger brand. Our next project is going to be a hamburger brand. So I want to make some steel letters that say America 250 because it's coming up on the 4th of July and the 250th birthday of the United States. And so we want to celebrate by making a brand for our burgers, for our barbecue. Ray Burgers. Something like that. I think they're going to be America Burgers. Oh, we got an ad starting in about 3 minutes. So let's do that next heat. The worst thing is when we end up having to, I can't snooze it. Oh, lame. Is when the last thing that you guys see is an ad. So I don't want to do that to you guys. Let's see if we can't manage this. It's Not gonna let me delay my ads for whatever reason. I don't know why. All right, let's do this. Alrighty. We're looking pretty darn good now. Nice and clean. Pretty happy with that. So, thank you guys so much for joining me today. We've got a little bit left to do on these things. We've got to shape the boss and the jaws. Then we get to put them together. Not too bad if you take a look at them. So I'm pretty happy. They're going to look pretty darn good. Oh, you snooze it for me. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful weekend, and I hope to see you on Monday. All right, let's see who we've got to read off to. You guys have a great weekend as well. Thank you so much for joining me. We might be finding a new person to raid. Let's see. Oh, let's raid Kanara. Been a while. Alrighty. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on Monday. Bye, guys.